You know the feeling, that little scratch in your throat, the sniffle you try to ignore, that sudden wave of just, ugh. And you think, okay, it's just a cold. You grab the tissues, you make some soup, and you figure you'll just ride it out for a few days. But what if that familiar bug you think you know is actually a master of disguise? What if hiding behind that common cold mask is something way more persistent, way more severe, and for some of us, a whole lot more dangerous? All right, let's pull back the curtain on this imposter. In this explainer, we are unmasking a virus that's been hiding in plain sight for, well, forever. First, we're going to look at the deception, how it pulls off the perfect cold imitation. Then we'll expose its strategy for the silent spread. After that, we'll get real about the unseen toll it takes. And finally, we'll talk about the new shield, a revolutionary defense that is changing everything. So let's start with the con itself. The whole reason this virus gets away with so much is because its opening act is a show we have all seen 100 times before. First, let's talk about our old buddy, the common cold. You know, it's not actually one single thing, right? It's just a catch-all name for infections from over 200 different viruses. It's annoying, it's totally predictable, and it's usually gone in about a week. Your immune system knows the drill. But what if what you've got isn't just some random bug from that cast of 200? What if it's one specific virus, respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, an imposter that starts out looking exactly like the rest, but has a much, much more serious second act planned? And this is just how perfect the deception is. I mean, look at this. In the first few days, the playbook is identical. Runny nose, cough, sore throat, feeling tired. You could have a totally standard rhinovirus, or you could have RSV. At this stage, you would have absolutely no way to tell them apart.
But then the script starts to change. As Dr. Ross Sticamini points out, with RSV, the symptoms are usually more persistent and intense. A cold might be a week-long inconvenience, but RSV can hang on for 2 weeks, maybe even longer. And this is when the red flags start popping up. We're not talking about just a little cough anymore. We're talking about wheezing, that whistling sound when you try to breathe, a high fever that just won't quit, and even shortness of breath. That is when you know you are not dealing with a common cold.
So how does it get away with this? It's all about its incredible ability to spread. RSV doesn't just mimic a cold. It moves through our world like a ghost, using a strategy that makes it ridiculously effective. Now, the initial methods of attack are pretty familiar. You've got your virus-filled droplets from a cough or a sneeze. You've got direct contact, like shaking someone's hand. And then there's the classic, touching something that's contaminated and then touching your own face. It uses all the same highways as pretty much every other respiratory virus.
But here's where its patience really pays off. See that doorknob or that countertop? RSV can survive there for up to 6 hours, just waiting. It's a shorter time on soft stuff like tissues and only about 30 minutes on your hands, which, by the way, is why hand washing is so huge. But that ability to just chill on a hard surface makes it a constant threat.
And the real stealth move, that happens inside of you. So after you've been exposed, there's this 4 to 6 day window, the incubation period. You feel totally fine. You have no clue what's brewing. But inside your respiratory system, that virus is silently and rapidly making millions of copies of itself, just getting ready for its big debut. And listen, this is the most critical point, the single most insidious part of its entire strategy. You can start spreading RSV a full day or two before you even get that first sniffle. You feel healthy, you're going to work, you're seeing friends, and you are actively contagious, a silent spreader, helping the virus find its next victim. For most healthy adults, you're going to be contagious for about 3 to 8 days. That's kind of the standard window where you're actively shedding the virus and can pass it on. But, and this is a huge but, this is the exception that drives epidemics. For little babies or for adults with weaker immune systems, that viral shedding period can absolutely explode. It can last for up to 4 weeks. And get this, in some cases, it can last for an astonishing 168 days. That is nearly half a year of being a potential source of infection. It's a massive reason why this virus is so darn successful. So why does all of this matter so much? Because for a lot of people, RSV isn't just a bad cold. It's so much more. Let's really look at the staggering impact this virus has when it finds the right person to infect. This is the unseen toll. First off, forget the idea that this is just a little kid's illness.
Every single year in the US, RSV is responsible for up to 160,000 hospitalizations in adults over 60. That is a massive public health crisis, all from a virus that most people just shrug off as a cold. And the risk isn't spread out evenly. This virus is a predator. It specifically targets people whose defenses are already a little bit down. The highest risk groups? We're talking adults 75 and older and anyone with chronic heart or lung diseases like asthma or COPD. A weakened immune system, severe diabetes, or even just living in a nursing home, all of those put you squarely in the danger zone. And this is where you see just how dramatically RSV can pour gasoline on the fire for people with underlying conditions. For someone with COPD, an RSV infection increases their risk of being hospitalized by over 13 times. For an adult with asthma, that risk is more than 8 times higher. RSV doesn't just create a new problem, it makes existing problems explode. And the danger doesn't always go away when the coughing stops. For people who get hit really hard, RSV can cause lasting damage to their lung tissue. And what's more, recent studies have actually linked a serious RSV infection to a higher risk of heart problems for months after the illness is gone. The battle might be over, but the virus can leave behind some serious scars. Now, for decades, that's where the story ended. All we could do was treat the symptoms and cross our fingers. But very recently, the entire fight against RSV has been completely transformed. Welcome to the dawn of a new defense. So in 2023, we had a monumental breakthrough. For the first time in history, vaccines specifically designed to protect older adults from severe RSV were approved. This wasn't just another small step. This was a complete and total game changer. So who is this new shield for? Well, the CDC recommends a single dose of the RSV vaccine for 2 key groups of people: all adults who are 75 years and older, and then adults between 50 and 74 who have those underlying medical conditions we just talked about, like chronic heart or lung disease that put them at a much higher risk. And the most important part is they work. Man, do they work. This is the real-world data from the very first season they were out. The GSK vaccine, called RSV, was 83% effective at stopping RSV from putting people in the hospital. Pfizer's, called Abrysvo, was 73% effective. These things aren't just preventing the sniffles, they are preventing the absolute worst outcomes. But here it is, the final, shocking twist in this story. With this amazing new protection now available, the biggest barrier isn't the science, it's awareness. A recent survey found that 64%, that's nearly 2/3 of older adults with chronic lung disease, the very people at such high risk, had never once talked about RSV with their doctor. The biggest threat isn't doubt, it's silence. So, we end on this question. Now that we've pulled the mask off this dangerous doppelganger, now that we know its sneaky strategy, the real toll it can take, and the powerful new shield we have to fight back, is dismissing a bad illness as just a cold a chance that you or the people you love are really willing to take? The next step is just a conversation.